rebranded the company. We got a listing. We got a finance company license. So it was a very exciting time. The key challenges is performance of the stock exchange is very closely correlated to how country performs economically. And if you look back in the last 5-6 years, we have gone from one crisis to another.
How does Colombo Stock Exchange contribute to the economic growth of Sri Lanka?
So if you look at our market pre-COVID, about 40 to 45% of our volumes were foreign and the balance was domestic. Today we are at about 10% of foreign. So we like to get back to a higher number of encouraging foreign investors, and I think we are going to get fairly. We are hopeful that country re-rating will be taken out of the default status, which will be a catalyst to draw in foreign investment back into Sri Lanka. And in fact, we are planning an international fund managers conference in March.
You have been one of the fortunate CEOs to witness this Colombo Stock Exchange get in the highest level.
For the recent increases, we can't take credit for it, and I think I'm in the right place at the right time. So we are very happy about the level of activity in the market. Stockbroking office, you can do everything. Even signing of the agreement, signing of the forms can be digitally done. So all that has been enabled. So we have developed the infrastructure along with the stockbroker infrastructure to enable easy access. We carry out about 350 seminars on any given year around the country. In all 3 languages as well. We have mechanism to indicate to the investor that a particular company is not in compliance with the rules by transferring some companies to a watch list if they fail to submit their financial statements on time, which is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, who will do the enforcement part. We introduced very recently, or about a year back, stock borrowing and lending and regulated short selling. So that's the first equity linked product that we have come up with. Like for example, other than the plain vanilla corporate debt, we introduced the framework for green and blue bonds. We are coming up with a social bond framework as well. Then we launched the framework for sukuks, launch of sukuks. Then infrastructure bonds, perpetual bonds, high yield bonds. So a series of debt products which companies can now use. We have got a lot of international agencies involved. The ADB helped the CSE and the Stock Exchange to develop the framework. We are working closely with IFC. So you will know exactly any kind of activity on your CDS account. There is no way that somebody can buy it to enable entrepreneurs to come and raise capital successfully. And if you look at the SME sector, already we have about 6 companies that have come into the Empower board and successfully had IPOs. One company in fact has migrated to the Dirisari board already.
We saw very successful IPOs coming in, and some entrepreneurs watching this also must be having an intention to list their company in the Colombo Stock Exchange.
Once you list it, the market will place a market value on your share, and that can be many times the actual book value of the company. So you immediately unlock your potential, and there's wealth creation for shareholders. Overnight you will find that your value has.
What are the piece of advice you like to give the youngsters who is wanting to build a good?
So when you get up in the morning, you must feel that you want to come to work and it's not a drag. So I think the passion for what you do is
present as a token of appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to MasterMind YouTube channel. Today we have come to the Colombo Stock Exchange to meet the most important person. It's none other than the CEO, Mr. Rajeeva Bandaranaike. So Rajeev, thank you for accepting our invitation and joining us with this show. So the Colombo Stock Exchange is a very important role who is watching our YouTube channel. Mr. Rajeev, your journey to this Colombo Stock Exchange has been a very motivation thing for a lot of viewers and even myself. Would you be able to explain what was your journey and the challenges that you came through when you're coming to the level of the CEO of Colombo Stock Exchange from your school time itself, if you can just give us a brief?
So, Roshan, I initially worked in 3 financial institutions before coming over to the stock exchange. At that time, my thinking was rather than work for a private company or group companies, and you're making, okay, you're creating wealth for the shareholders, etc., all that is fine. But when this vacancy, when I came across this vacancy at the stock exchange, I thought this is an ideal opportunity for me to do something broader than work for a single company, because this has a impact from an economic perspective, from a stakeholder perspective, an investor perspective, etc. So this was like an opportunity where I can do something more than work for a. So that was motivating factor which brought me in. I initially joined to the CDS, the Central Depository System, as their first assistant manager way back in 1992. And then I worked in several areas within the stock exchange. At a particular point, I think after working for about 18 years, you get somewhat saturated. And I came to a point where I knew I could do more with the experience I have gained. And I wanted to do something more. I was motivated to do something more, and then I left. So that was my first innings at the stock exchange. I left and I worked for 2 other financial institutions, both as CEO. And those are very challenging opportunities too. And it was a different experience where you gave leadership to companies who were doing business. And in one of the companies that I worked, that was at Orient Finance. During my tenure there, we rebranded the company. We got a listing. We got a finance company license. So it was a very exciting time, and enjoyed that experience as well. At that time, I never had any intention of coming back to the stock exchange. So I thought my life was, going in a totally different direction. But then suddenly a vacancy arose as the CEO of the stock exchange, and I thought, why not give it a shot, because it's the sort of unfinished business, as it were. I knew I could do something if I come back, and of course there were from the industry as well. People felt that I can come back and do something, and that's what brought me back to the stock exchange in 2013, end of 2013, and currently I have been about 11 years in this role. So that has been the journey up to now.
So what are the challenges that you face towards this journey?
If I look at the tenure in the last 11 years at the stock exchange, one of the key challenges is the performance of the stock exchange is very closely correlated to how the country performs economically. And if you look back in the last 5-6 years, we have gone from one crisis to another. We have had the Easter attacks, we have had the pandemic, we have had the economic crisis. So one crisis to other, and that brings forward different challenges in managing organization, particularly one that is very sensitive to political instability, one that is sensitive to economic instability, and you have all those challenges. And at the same time, we need to keep developing the market, we need to keep investing in infrastructure, etc. So you need to balance all of those interests as well as the stakeholder interests as well. So it becomes quite challenging. So that has been probably the key challenge in us trying to find the right balance in doing the right kind of investment, making the organization also financially viable at the same time, but not compromising on our development role, and taking the hits on volumes, etc. as we go along. So we have never had a kind of very stable period of growth and development in the country, which probably is the key challenge. Other internal challenges you can overcome. It's up to us to really devise strategies, be aggressive as we want to be, to get new business, to restructure organizations and to position our organization well, to ensure that there is a balanced regulatory framework, etc. So I think the key challenge has been the externalities that has an impact on the market.
Okay. Well, another important thing that came across was about economic growth. How does Colombo Stock Exchange contribute to the economic growth of Sri Lanka?
So Roshan, any capital market, there are 2 main roles or functions. One is capital raising, and other one is about creating opportunities for investors to create wealth from themselves. So that's why we, as a vision statement, we say creating wealth and value. So one is, are we acting as a catalyst for raising capital? If you look at this year, we have been particularly successful. We have raised an all-time high record of capital through the stock market. I think close upon 160 billion worth of debt, equity, rights issues and private placements have come in this year, and I think we have surpassed the record in 2021 of 123 billion. We have achieved about 160 billion this year. So I think one of the key roles is, are we playing our role in this raising capital raising function for corporates, both in the government sector and the private sector. So as a company, you have different ways that you can raise capital for a business. So you have banking, then you have private equity investors, you have angel investors, you have other forms of investors who will invest in your company, and public markets or capital markets is another way where businesses can raise capital. So one of our key roles is to offer the market for the corporate sector to raise both debt and equity capital and even other forms of capital like through rights issues, etc. And so that we have put in a lot of resources behind ensuring that we have the proper framework and the criteria is conducive for companies to come in and raise capital, and we service those companies well. And on the other hand, that we have a wide enough pool of investors who are willing to invest in the market. So which brings me to the other side of the coin, where we provide opportunities for investors to invest in the market and get returns. There again, we have a role in trying to maintain and develop a good investor base, both local and a foreign investor base. So if you look at our market pre-COVID, about 40 to 45% of our volumes were foreign and the balance was domestic. But post-COVID, this equation changed and we had a lot of foreign investors moving out, and today we are at about 10% of foreign. So we like to get back to a higher number of encouraging foreign investors, and I think we are going to get fairly aggressive from next year again. We are hopeful that the country re-rating will be taken out of the default status, which will be a catalyst to draw in foreign investment back into Sri Lanka. And in fact, we are planning an international fund managers conference in March next year, where we want to get down foreign institutional investors and showcase Sri Lanka and get them to experience Sri Lanka firsthand as a way of building confidence among foreign investors. So we want to get back that portion of foreign investors. So domestically, the plan is to grow, broad-base the market. Again, the penetration, Roshan, is still inadequate locally, and we have at any given month we have only about 30 or 35,000 active investors who are trading actively in the market, and we are talking about a base of about 250,000 people who have a portfolio of shares in their accounts, which is relatively small in comparison to other asset classes. So our focus is how do we broad base this market. We have already maintain 10 regional offices outside Colombo, merely to create the visibility and take the message of capital markets out there to the community, all towards building the financial literacy among people to encourage them to invest in the market. I think one of the key reasons why there is low uptake among the Sri Lankan population is that they don't understand the market very well. They know what the stock exchange is, they've seen it, heard about it, but that next step in converting yourself to an investor is a big step for them to take. And I think there we need to do a lot of awareness, and the lack of knowledge probably is keeping a lot of people out. So we have to fill that gap, and we are working jointly with the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka and the brokers to fill that gap, to give that knowledge gap as well, so that we encourage. So on one hand, our role is to act as a catalyst for raising capital, and on the other hand, to provide opportunities for investors to invest their money and for good returns.
You have been one of the fortunate CEOs to witness this Colombo Stock Exchange get in the highest level. So it surpassed at this moment, passing 14,600, and we are talking about 19 days of consecutive stock market going up. So you are one of the fortunate CEOs. So what do you feel about this? And in addition, what are the reforms that you brought in the Colombo Stock Exchange, and would like to hear from you about that?
Of course, the recent increases, we can't take credit for it, and I think I'm in the right place at the right time. So we are very happy about the level of activity in the market. I think, Roshan, two things. We'll talk about what made the market active. Let's go back and look at in the last, say, 10 years or so, what are the developments that we have done. If you look at the infrastructure, we are known as a capital markets infrastructure provider, and it's our role and responsibility to provide the infrastructure to operate a capital market or a stock market, and we are the operator of the stock market in Sri Lanka. So over the years we have developed our infrastructure, our technology to provide seamless access to trading. Now, for example, anybody from any part of the world for that matter can use the mobile phone, onboard themselves, open accounts, select a broker of your choice, gain access to electronic trading, receive all of the information, trading information, research information, information about the companies, all on your fingertips, and then do your own transactions. You don't have to rely on the broker. You can execute your own transactions by getting access to the trading terminals of stockbroker firms or broker of your choice, and then also settle your money electronic using the internet banking system. So end to end, you needn't really like the old days to walk up to a stockbroking office. You can do everything. Even signing of the agreement, signing of the forms can be digitally done. So all that has been enabled. So we have developed the infrastructure along with the stockbroker infrastructure to enable easy access and the provision of information. Secondly, also I think we have created visibility and done a lot of awareness about the stock market among the general population in Sri Lanka. And to that extent, for example, we carry out about 350 seminars on any given year around the country, in all 3 languages as well. So we penetrate as much as we can in addition to other webinars, etc. that we would have. So this awareness creation through the 10 regional officers is on a continuous basis as well. Then the third aspect is about regulation. I think if you talk about investor confidence, it's about having the proper regulatory framework in place. And I think we have now come to a situation where we have a fairly robust regulatory framework in place, both on the part of regulation of stockbrokers, where we have minimum standards that are stipulated. We have an investor grievance procedure, an independent panel who will hear a complaint if the investor has a grievance against a stockbroker. So all those processes have been well set up. And then even on listed companies, we have that level of transparency and disclosures in place. We have a corporate disclosure policy that will mandate companies to make timely and accurate disclosures to the market, so that investors, once you make an investment in a company, is well aware of all the developments of a company. And then if there is some non-compliance, we have mechanisms to indicate to the investor that a particular company is not in compliance with the rules, by example transferring some companies to a watch list if they fail to submit their financial statements on time. So all those processes have been put in place. And also corporate governance, that rules that have been brought in, mandating companies to maintain minimum levels of corporate governance, which will give comfort to investors. Whether you are a foreign investor or a local investor, you will know that you are investing in a company that has minimum corporate governance rules in place. And if they don't comply, again we have certain punitive measures that we take. So I think we have set up a fairly robust regulatory regime which is comparable largely with any market overseas as well. And then we have the enforcement regime, which is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, who will do the enforcement part of the regulation. So that's as far as the regulation is concerned. Then for a large time, we have been kind of a one product market, Roshan, having only equities. But in the recent past, we have been able to expand that. We introduced very recently, or about a year back, stock borrowing and lending and regulated short selling. So that's the first equity linked product that we have come up with. And then we have introduced a series of debt products. Like for example, other than the plain vanilla corporate debt, we introduced the framework for green and blue bonds. We are coming up with a social bond framework as well. Then we launched the framework for sukuks, launch of sukuks. then infrastructure bonds, perpetual bonds, high yield bonds. So series of debt products which companies can now use. And since we introduced the green bonds framework, we are very fortunate to have the first green bond issuance by a company this year, and we are expecting at least 2 in the first quarter of next year. So I think that move towards sustainability, the move towards growing green, I think we have a hand in it, and we are promoting it actively among the community, that we encourage more companies to issue bonds that are environmental friendly linked. And we're doing a lot of work in that space, talking to prospective issuers, both listed and unlisted. We have got a lot of international agencies involved. The ADB helped the CSE and the Stock Exchange to develop the framework. We are working closely with IFC. We have worked with for example, agencies like the French Embassy, etc. And we have done a lot of work around making a bit of noise about green bonds and sustainability linked bonds, so that to encourage us doing our piece to ensure that we are moving towards an environmental friendly country as well. So that's another important piece that we have done. So in all, I think we have done a lot of development, even as I said, on the technology side. We have upgraded our systems, both the trading system, the CDS, and even at the broker end, we got together with the brokers and developed their infrastructure, the order management systems, the broker back office systems, to a level, and now it's cloud-based systems that they're offering, which offers scalability on their side, so that they can cope with any increased volume that may come. So I think we can be happy that we have probably come a long way in terms of building a better market, which is adhering to global standards.
Correct. Even I can remember those days when you had to go to open a CDS account, a lot of documents, and to fill it, and it takes like sometimes 1 month, 2 months to get a account open. As well as the contract notes, I think we have seen a significant improvement with the emails coming in and
yes,
digital
so now,
system.
and it gives the digitization gives better control. For example, each time you do a transaction, or at the end of the day, you will get an alert on your mobile phone. So you will know exactly any kind of activity on your CDS account. There is no way that somebody can buy or sell shares without your knowledge, because you get SMS to your phone. So to that extent, there is a good control mechanism as well. And the convenience, I can cite one example. Earlier, when you had to do a nomination, in the event of your death, for you to nominate your portfolio, and if you had a portfolio of 20 stocks, you had to go to 20 companies, fill up 20 different forms with the 20 different company secretaries. And there again, there was the issue as to your portfolio as at a particular date, because if you buy and sell and the portfolio changes, your nominations become invalid. So now we have sorted that problem out, and you need to digitally, you can nominate to the CDS, and your entire portfolio as at the date of your death will pass on to your named heirs. So I think the entire process has been simplified, so that stock market investing is now made very easy and accessible to all. Yeah.
Very interesting. So we have seen like phenomenal growth in the Colombo Stock Exchange transactions as well. I think for these transactions ease and everything to happen, I think these reforms also has been helpful, I feel. Also during the past few months and years, we saw very successful IPOs coming in. And some entrepreneurs watching this also must be having an intention to list their company in the Colombo Stock Exchange. What are the advices that you can give for them to list their company in stock exchange, and how should they position themselves?
Yeah, Roshan, so any entrepreneur who dreams big, who want to expand their business, you want to go regional, you want to go global, you are not happy being a domestic small business. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this dream, and I think capital is one key requirement for them to do their expansion plans. So if you take a life cycle of a business, at different points of your life cycle in the business, you will require different degrees of capital. I think at the initial stages, your friends and family will probably raise the required capital for you, and when it matures, you probably reach out to an angel investor or a person who will give you the seed capital, or an investment bank that will help you to structure some facilities. You will go obviously for banking facilities, and at a particular point of time, you will find that those sources are exhausted. And if you want to grow, and that's the time you need to reach out to public markets or capital markets. So I think there's a particular stage of the business that you should really reach out to capital markets. Not too early, but at a stage where you are able to reach out to capital markets, you are able to service shareholders and service a listing. So that's also important, the timing as to when you should get the capital and at the time that you want to grow. So I think many of these businesses eventually will have to reach out to capital markets, because if you are reaching that level of growth, your bank funding is not going to be adequate, and you need to supplement it with also a better debt to equity ratio as well. You can't be highly leveraged, and at that time you need to go and look for equity as well, and that's the time you will reach out to capital markets. Now, in our listing framework, we cater to a wide range of companies. For example, we have the Empower Board, which is specifically tailor-made for SMEs, which has different requirements to the larger companies, different control listing requirements, different corporate governance requirements, and very much easier, lesser capital requirements, which will cater to the SME company. So, and also we have built in a hand-holding exercise for those companies, where the concept of a sponsor has been brought in. So there is an expert called a sponsor, which is an institution like an investment bank, who will handhold the company for the first 2 years, of course for a fee, and they will take you through the paces to introduce you to capital markets, structure the issues, and walk you through and hold your hand for another 2 years still. So that's mandated by the rules to ensure that they fit into the listing space as well. So there's a lot of assistance given. You are not all on your own, as it were, when you get into a listing. So you have the SME board. Then for the mid-sized companies, you have the Dirisavi board for the slightly larger companies, and for the larger conglomerates, you have the main board. Then for SOE, state-owned enterprises, we have set up a separate board, recognizing that they have different requirements, different criteria, etc. We have recognized those and come up with a different set of criteria and regulations for the SOE board as well. Then in addition, we have also facilitated local companies to raise foreign denominated capital. So you can reach out to foreigners and raise US dollar denominated capital. And we also have provision for foreign companies to come and list here. So there is a fairly wide range of opportunities created for companies to raise capital. So entrepreneurs can decide at which point you need this, and come in at the right time to the whatever board that will suit you best. And for that, Sri Lanka also has a fairly developed infrastructure and framework in terms of having credit rating agencies to give you a rating. You have a group of investment banks who are very experienced, who are able to offer you that service in looking at your company, advising your company, restructuring your company where necessary, and preparing your company and your accounts in a manner that you are able to go for a public listing, and also advise you on the timing of the issue, pricing of the issue, etc., and also helping you to place the issue, market the issue among investors as well. So I think you have a fairly well settled framework and infrastructure to enable entrepreneurs to come and raise capital successfully. And if you look at the SME sector, already we have about 6 companies that have come into the Empower board and successfully had IPOs. One company in fact has migrated to the Dirisavi board already. Yeah, so I think if you have the passion and the drive as an entrepreneur to take your business to the next level, and you want to go regional, you want to go global, I think you need to look at public markets, and we can offer that the facility for those companies to raise either debt or equity capital. You can in fact unlock the potential of your company through a listing. As long as you don't take your company public, you will not realize the full value of your company. But you will find that once you list it, the market will place a market value on your share, and that can be many times the actual book value of the company. So you immediately unlock your potential And there's wealth creation for shareholders. Overnight you will find that your value has expanded significantly, and that has, if you look at most of the IPOs, we have seen wealth creation for shareholders. So I think listing is about unlocking your value.
Also, many youngsters also very inspired to have investing in stock exchange as well as to have a career growth. What are the piece of advice you like to give the youngsters who is wanting to build a good career?
Yeah, in terms of aspiring leaders, I think, Roshan, you first have to have a passion for what you do. You need to believe in yourself, and you need to have a passion for what you do. So if you don't like what you do, you will never succeed. So I think first and foremost, you must like what you do and have an absolute passion. So when you get up in the morning, you must feel that you want to come to work and it's not a drag. So I think the passion for what you do is important. Then there are certain other attributes, like for example integrity, which is very important, and you need to be completely honest in whatever you do. Even, and integrity goes deep down, even in terms of the time that you contribute. So if you are employed and you have signed a contract with your employer, you must devote your time fully to the job that you have come to do. So I think that level of integrity is that you don't cheat even on your time. So I think that level of integrity, and it'll pay off. It'll pay off, and people will see it, people will recognize it, and people will reward you for that. The third area is again being transparent in what you do, particularly in leadership roles. People look to you for direction. People look to you to follow as an example. People look to you to make the right decisions. So I think being transparent is also another key factor, so that people start trusting you and believing you. So that level of transparency that you build in also becomes important in the journey of leadership as well. The other aspect is about being, again relates back to integrity, I think, about not making false promises, standing by what you say, and standing by your decisions, and also quick decision making. You need to make decisions. Sometimes your decision may not be 100% right. You make right decisions, you make wrong decisions. That's the way of life, and I think even in the corporate sector, you must try to make less mistakes. Mistakes are costly, but you need to make those right decisions at the right time in a quick manner. So I think those are some of the attributes that you need to have for leadership. And also it's important to have a good work-life balance. That will make you a better person. You need to be fit for your role, so you need to eat well, exercise, sleep. So sometimes you tend to ignore some of these because you get caught up in your career. So I think you need to lead a good balanced life as well, even spiritually if you can. That helps. I do some meditation in the morning. That helps to calm the mind down. And life is full of challenges. When you do leadership roles, again it's a challenge because a lot of things end up on your table, and you're fighting fires all the time. You have a development role. You need to at the same time run your operations. So you need to balance those interests as well. And finally, I think as a leader, you need to have vision. You need to know where you want to go, and that's very important. If you don't know where you want to go, you really can't lead others. So you need to have a vision, and you want to know, exactly where you want to go and how you can get there. So these are top of my mind, some of the few responses I can give you.
So it's very clear, if you want to be successful, you have to have a clear goal, where do you want to go, and then how do you achieve it. Now, even when I had to schedule your interview, I had in mind, I should have a discussion with you, exclusive interview. And then that had a series of planning and execution. And even to come here, to get up in the morning, to be inspired, I'm going to go meet this person and have a good chat. So like that, like entrepreneurs or even youngsters, always you have to have a goal and make sure that you achieve it. You have to have courage in self as well as discipline. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and having you in our show. Thank you very much. And before we end, there's a very valuable thing that we like to share. This book was written about 2 years ago and was launched in BMICH, and last 2 book exhibitions also we had. So this is the Master of Game of Money, about especially financial literacy, teaching people. So this book also I want to present to you as a token of appreciation.
Thank you very much.